Hello, and welcome to another online video lecture. These lectures are for my Composition 1 students who are studying out of Everyone's an Author. Let's begin. Rhetoric surrounds us every day. It's in the words that we read, the words that we speak, sing. It's in the artwork. It's in symbols from companies like Mac and PC. It's in other symbols as well, like Adidas and Nike. Rhetoric is a mode of communication, and it is up to us to learn to use it responsibly. The editors of this book decided to quote Kenneth Burke, who is a well-known rhetorician. They say, Kenneth Burke says that people are, at their essence, symbol-using animals who have a basic need to communicate. I agree with this quote, and they further support their argument with pictures that you can see on page 2. These are cave drawings dating back some 3,000 years ago. Now, you and I don't know the original intent of the pictures, but we can theorize. Maybe they want to share with us the fact that they relied upon horses for mode of transportation. Maybe they relied upon horses to help defend their communities from marauders. Whatever it is a form of artwork. And this artwork is trying to communicate something to us. Cave paintings are not the only mode of communication that we use to try to share ideas with others. We also have paintings. And if you take a look at this picture in your textbook, this is a picture of the Tower of Babel. Now, this story is recorded in both the Quran and the Bible. It is believed that the people in this community were working together to build the highest tower ever to have been built. And the reason they were building it is because they thought that they would be able to reach the heavens and to reach their God. Their God, however, believed that their hubris was overtaking them, and their God decided that they would no longer be able to speak the same language. Their language became confusing, and they could no longer build the tower together to complete their task. The story offers a lesson for us. The lesson is that communication is valuable. It's important. We need communication to be able to work together, to live together in communities. The textbook moves you from artwork and into the internet. I think this is a wild jump to go from artwork to the internet. We're leaving out so many other things. We're leaving out the invention of papyrus being used for scrolls. We're leaving out the use of vellum and having books that are very thick and learning to write. We're leaving out so much, the printing press and other things. But nevertheless, let's follow how the book goes. So after the artwork, they show you a search engine, and it's Google Translate and Bing Translate. Here, the authors and editors want you to understand that rhetoric is a mode of communication, but it's so much more than just translating word for word. Rhetoric embeds cultural values. It embeds historical context. There is so much more to take into consideration than just the single words on the page. That's why those cave drawings, the original intent of the cave drawings, are lost to us. We can only speculate. So be very careful with the words that you choose, and be very careful how you decode other people's intent. Nowadays, people believe that rhetoric is not only a mode of communication, but rhetoric is also the art of persuasion to try to get somebody else or a group of people to believe the same way that you do. The editors and authors decide to quote Wayne Booth, a famous rhetorician, to help support their argument. Here they say, a noted critic and scholar, Booth, explored these questions throughout his long career, identifying rhetoric as an ethical art that begins with deep and intense listening, that searches for mutual understanding and common ground as an alternative to violence and war. Put another way, two of the most potent tools we have for persuasion are language and violence. When words fail us, violence often wins the day. Booth sees the careful persistent and ethical use of language as our best approach to keeping violence and war at bay. Booth is hinting at the fact that the words that we choose to try to persuade somebody else need to be well chosen. Words can incite war. Words can hurt people. I think of the little saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but your words will never hurt me. This is so far from the truth. It's just a little saying that we teach our children to deal with the harm of teasing that they may endure at school. Let's follow some more along in the book. Let's go look at page 6. There are two pictures here on this page. First, you have an African American girl with a piece of tape over her mouth that says, "I can't breathe." Next to that picture, you have the Black Lives Matter movement. These two pictures combined have a powerful impact. There is so much rhetoric filling these pages. So, tape over the mouth means that your words don't matter, right? And if you look at the second picture, there's a poster with hands up, and it has another poster next to it that says Black Lives Matter. Now, of course, in our day and time, we can relate to this. There have been many news reportings of Black people shot or Black people wrongfully imprisoned, and this movement speaks out against those things. So rhetoric is just more than words. Rhetoric is pictures. Think of the feelings that these pictures conjure up. Here's another use of rhetoric, and this is about the living wage. So people are trying to argue that minimum wage, which I believe now is somewhere between $7 and $8, is not enough for a person to live on. There have been studies conducted that show that a person needs 3 minimum wage jobs just to earn what we call a living wage. A living wage is a wage that keeps you out of poverty, it keeps you off government assistance, and it helps you to live comfortably, to pay your bills, to have health insurance, etc. So take a look here at this picture that you see. You see an officer and 2 people looking towards a person inside of a window. The person inside of the window has their hand over their mouth. Now this is a micro expression that indicates that they want to say something, but they can't. And if we look at the writing all around them, the living wage says USA Today, and it has a date, March 8th, 2000 and something. We can see that they are discussing what will help somebody to stay afloat in today's economy. Now, why do you think a police officer is there? What's the use in that? What rhetoric is being used? Do we need to be careful? Is there a riot about to break out? These are questions that the picture is posing. These questions are being posed to you. Directly underneath that picture, you have another quote by Kenneth Burke. Let's read this quote together. It says, "Imagine that you enter a parlor. You come late. When you arrive, others have long preceded you, and they are engaged in a heated discussion, a discussion too heated for them to pause and tell you exactly what it is about. You listen for a while until you decide that you have caught the tenor of the argument, and then you put in your oar." I love this quote by Kenneth Burke. It's from The Philosophy of Literary Form. Kenneth Burke is talking about the fact that we all have opinions, and those opinions are based upon a discussion that's ongoing about a particular topic. Now, in Composition 1 and in Composition 2, we use a lot of mapping tools in order to discover this process. So let's take a look at some of those tools. One of those tools that I frequently use in the classroom and throughout my Composition 1 and Composition 2 courses is something that I call the continuum of opinion. You can also call it the continuum of discourse. As you can see, it is an number line, meaning that the discourse goes infinitively in both directions. On the side where you see the positive sign, that is where your opinion would be located. It is the positive. Or others who agree with you. On the opposite end of the number line, in the negative, are those that totally disagree with your argument. And then in between there, you have people who will partially agree and disagree with your argument. Now, anybody who does not agree with you, whether partially or totally, those people are called naysayers. And naysayers will offer a counter-argument to something that you are proposing. Another tool that we use within Composition 1 and Composition 2 is the rhetorical situation. Now, the rhetorical situation has evolved from the rhetorical triangle. So you see both a triangle and a circle within this graphic here. Now, the rhetorical triangle was made up of the three appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos is the credibility of the writer. Pathos is the emotion used within an argument and the emotion of the audience. And logos is the actual text itself, or the logic used to hold the argument together. Now, if we look here at this rhetorical situation diagram, we will see the triangle. And inside the triangle is the actual text. It's the argument that's being made, whether it's a written argument, a spoken argument, advertisement, whatever it is. That is the actual text. Then you will see the word writer down here. Now, writer can be the person who's making the argument. So it could be a writer, it could be a director of a movie, it could be a songwriter, it could be a performer, it can be an artist, it could be anybody. It's the person who is making the argument. Then you see the word reader. Now, reader is the person reading a text, or it could be the audience watching a movie. It could be the audience watching a TV show. It could be the listener to a song. It could be the person looking at a piece of artwork. Then subject, that is what the argument is about. So take, for example, if we were going to argue about school tuition rates. Inside the text itself would be the argument. But the argument is about school tuition rates. Around the triangle, you will see the word context. Now, context means that you need to take into consideration both the person who's making the argument, the people receiving the argument. You need to consider their biases and their perspectives. You also need to consider the cultural context and the historical context of the argument that's being made, because all of these things affect the text. So, we've talked about the use of rhetoric, and we've talked about the fact that rhetoric is meant to persuade others towards your opinion. So let's go back to the continuum of opinion that we have. Remember, you are the positive sign. That means it's what you agree about on the topic. The opposite of you is disagree. And then you can have people who partially agree or disagree with your argument. We've looked at tools that we use in order to map the process of rhetoric and the process of argument, because we looked at Kenneth Burke's quote about entering a parlor and needing to wait to listen to the conversation about what is being discussed. And I really like this quote that the textbook offers to you. It says, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen more and talk less." And it's imperative that we listen to what's being discussed about a topic, and we weigh all the arguments that are being offered about this topic, and then we formulate our own opinion about that topic. And after you formulate your opinion about that topic, and you've considered why other people are saying what they are saying, then it's time for you to put in what is commonly known as your or. It is time for you to offer your opinion, to write your paper, maybe make that blog, maybe write that blog. So, remember, rhetoric is the use of communication to persuade others towards your opinion. We've talked about rhetoric and how it's a mode of communication meant to persuade others towards your opinion. We've also looked at a couple of tools that we use in both Composition 1 and Composition 2 to map out the rhetorical situation. Then we discussed how it's important for you to offer your own opinion about a topic that you're passionate about. But let's bring this chapter, Thinking Rhetorically, to a conclusion. What does it mean to think rhetorically? It boils down to this. It means that you think of others, that you think about their perspectives, that you think about their cultural values, and that you're cognizant of those things, and that you show respect for them. So while you're constructing an argument and while you're using your words, your rhetoric, it's important to show respect for those who are going to be listening to you. Make sure that you always have their best interest at the foremost of your thought process. That is what is discussed here on page 15 in your textbook. They offer you some quotes to consider, and I'm not going to belabor those quotes for you. I'm sure that you have already read them. So let's move on to this quote that they put down here. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we're back again, yet, to the idea that rhetoric, the use of communication, is meant to help a community. So be wise with your words and be wise with how you represent your thoughts, because it can either help build up a community or it can tear a community down. And it is our responsibility as a rhetorician to be careful with that responsibility. Thank you for joining me for another online lecture. I look forward to answering your questions either in the YouTube comment section or if you're one of my students in the classroom. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.